So I've been thinking a lot about this topic of us having all the answers in the world, yet we don't actually need to search for them. We don't actually need to, dredge through the journey, take the path. We can kind of cheat the path in a lot of ways. And I think it's really dangerous for us. And we were talking just earlier, and I think tools are good, but when you give an apprentice a tool that they might abuse and they may not know the actual logic behind it or the reasoning behind the tool, then I think that cheats them out of learning and meaning, right? And so I'll give you an example. I sometimes have people kind of approach me and, they want a very simple answer from me. Ryan, how do I improve my diet? Like, just tell me what to do. How many times do I hear that? Just tell me what to do, right? And one might think, well, I go to a dietitian to learn exactly what to eat, and that's not helpful, in fact. And I pretty much refuse to do that for a lot of people, unless it's absolutely necessary, in which case some people are so dysregulated and off, and they need that. But the vast majority of people, if I were to say, well, eat 100 grams of protein a day, that's an answer. And you might think, well, okay, so I'll go and execute that. The problem is that is just not the reality, because you don't know what foods contain protein. You don't know why that's important. You don't know what the body does with protein. You don't know the boundaries there. Well, what happens if I get 90 grams, 99 grams? What happens if I get 50 grams? What happens if I get 120 grams of protein, right? So there's such a little context that answer breaks. It fractures under just the tiniest bit of stress. And that can feel not only discouraging, but it can feel like that's not the answer then. And so, okay, well, Ryan told me to get 100 grams in a day, and I'm not doing it. So either I'm wrong or I'm being bad, or the answer is wrong, and I got to find a different answer. And let me find a different one. Let me ask ChatGPT, or let me ask someone else, or whatever it might be. And think about, now we don't even need to search in a lot of ways. We have ask ChatGPT literally anything, and it can spit you out 2 sentences of an answer that you are looking for. Yeah, I think what we're noticing is that it's just meaningless. Before we had to search, we searched and we searched and we searched and we researched, and to bring up the Dewey Decimal System, and you had all this route to the answer, and it was cool because you spent 3 weeks of research to get to a somewhat knowledgeable conclusion, and it was like, oh, great, I have this piece of knowledge that now that before took, it was gated, it was gate kept. And that's why the answer felt so cool to have, right? And this way we made that the pinnacle. But now we've removed the search, we've removed the effort, and we removed the meaning. We've stripped it all of meaning, and now we have the answer. And it's like, oh, well, that's not even helpful anymore. So what is the helpful thing?
Yeah, great. I like this topic because, and the way you started the topic is great. There's the major difference between the knowledge and the answer. If you ask ChatGPT the answer, you're going to get it. And let's just pretend it's always right. We'll just say that it's right. And when it's wrong, the irony here is that most people just go about thinking that it's right anyways, because they actually haven't done any research to know that it's wrong. But when you have to search and work for the answer, you know what you find first? You find the non-answer. You find the non-answer. You find the wrong answer. You find all of these things that are around the answer that don't make sense to you, right? That you use your brain to figure out, okay, that's not right. All right, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, it can't be 500. That doesn't make any sense, right? Oh, well, what is 500? Oh, 500. Okay, let's go with 500. What does that look like? Oh, my God, I'd be eating all day. That my body can't, that can't be right. Okay. So, well, maybe it's 10. It can't be 10. All right, moving on. Let's keep searching. Let's keep working at it. Now you come to this number. Okay, 100. All right, now this makes sense. All right, because I figured out the non-answers first. I did my research. I used my brain. I worked at gaining this stuff. And now when I get to that number or answer, it has meaning because it has context and it has knowledge, and you've gained knowledge on a subject. And that, like the old school research papers that you would have to do, like the journey to get you there was what the teacher was after. And they could tell that you did the journey because of the results you got.
Right.
Now, and this is this big pushback, which I think it's funny that people are even on the other side of it, is like having these younger kids just use ChatGPT to get you the answer. And they're like, well, there it is. It's like, but that's not your answer. And even if you go, okay, ChatGPT, give me the answer. All right, I'm going to change the words. I'm going to spend 10 minutes on a project that was designed to take 2 hours. At the end of your 10 minutes, if I waited a month and asked you the question again, you'd have to do it again. You'd still have no baseline. You wouldn't be like, well, I remember from 2 months ago when we did this project that this is how it went. It's like, no, you'd have to start over again.
Right.
And so to your point, you got the answer, but it doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. You don't have any knowledge on the subject.
Right. Yeah, I like that idea too, like finding the non-answers, because that's what you're doing through the process. And, what we're finding now, at least I'll speak for myself, what I'm experiencing now, and we've had conversations on like seeking depth and trying to find depth in the small things. But what I'm finding now is that, it's truly like the experience that leads up to the answer that makes it all meaningful, right? And that is hard for us because, unfortunately, no one can give you the answer on anything. You have your own unique individual, and you have all the way in which your life is unlike anyone else's in a lot of ways. In totality, similar in a lot of ways. Like we have a lot of shared experiences, but in totality is so vastly different. And there's so many different variables that you have to live the question. There's this great passage in Letters to a Young Poet, which is it's just what it sounds. It's like an old book taken from one of the poets who lived, I think, in like the 19th century or something, and he's writing letters to these like friends and whatnot, and he comes across a letter inquiring, how do I be a good poet? Or how do I, just give me the answer. Like, what's the tips? Give me the 3 short tips to become the best poet. And just off the top of my head, it kind of goes something like, well, you should treat that question as if the answer is in a book in a foreign language, and you should live that question, and you should assume that you can't find that question right now. And even if you did, you wouldn't understand it. And so with all your heart, live the question, but don't desire to solve it right now, because one day it will make sense. It will come to you. And I really love that. And I would encourage everyone to read Letters to a Young Poet. You could just search on Google and read through. It's like a very short kind of like book kind of compilation, and it's beautiful. And it's having me think a lot about how I actually gain my own knowledge. I was joking with someone the other day, and I thought it was so funny because they were talking about like stepping away from their phone, and they're recognizing, wow, like there is so much to life now, right? There's so much here without all the information, without all the answers. There is so much more knowledge and so much more wisdom. And he's like, yeah, I'm stepping away from TikTok and all the shorts because it's just like 3 tips, whatever. And he went on to give the example of he was watching this video about some therapist that was like, 3 tips of therapy, 40 years of therapy, and 3 sentences or whatever, right? And we were just laughing because it's funny. It's like the same, it otherwise said 3 tips for wisdom, right? It's like you can't find tips for wisdom. You have to have an experience. You have to seek for it.
And it becomes in lieu of. Right, that's the challenge, right? There's definitely opportunities where if you want a quick answer, You get the quick answer. You're like, okay, but you'll find, and I'll almost guarantee it, you'll find that that quick answer is on a topic that you already have the knowledge around, right? It's like a missing piece. You're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? Add it into my knowledge base. It's when you're just searching for something that is completely out of your scope, right? Like, okay, I'll give you an example. I've been reading about peptides, so I'm like, I'm just going to look up, ask ChatGPT, what's the best peptides for a 44-year-old guy that's trying to do whatever, and it's like, and I'm like, okay, so now I have these names. Don't make any sense. That doesn't mean anything to me. But I know it's like, okay, what? Like, that's not going to help me. You know, I have to go back and go, okay, what are peptides? What is it? What's really going on? It's almost like, you know, you joked about the Dewey Decimal System or whatever, and I joke about it too, because when you start learning, you're trying to figure out how you learn. How do you learn? Like, for me, I'm lucky enough to know that I learn best through auditory. Lived experience 1, hearing it from somebody else 2, reading it 3, like way down the list is reading it for me, right? I can sit in a classroom and listen and I'll get most of it. But like, if you're nowadays, you don't even know how you learn. You like, and that's what school should be. School should be teaching you, like, let's face it, no, a lot of these projects these kids have where they have to repeat or write down in row, like who the president, who the second president, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the 10th, right? Like after the first 3, no one remembers anyways, no offense to the presidents, but it's about learning how to learn that stuff instead of just looking into ChatGPT and saying, tell me all 47 presidents. Does it make sense? So back in the day, the way you would learn it is you would go to the library or some other collection of knowledge, some other collection of books, and you would read until you found whatever answer you were looking for. You would write that down, and then you would go and you'd read for whatever answer you're looking for. And all this time, you're finding non-answers. That's not right. Like, that's not right. Okay. And by the time you're done, not only do you know who the presidents were, but you also knew kind of how some of them got there, who their vice president was, maybe who they beat in the election, why that person wasn't even important in American history. Now you just have, the other way is just tell me the 47. Now I have my list. Okay, is this name on the list? All right, that dude wasn't a president. All right, yep, that was him. Like, and 2 months from now, if I said, tell me the 47 presidents, you wouldn't be able to do it. You'd have 3 or 4 names in your memory, barely. And I think that's on every topic. What about driving?
I was just thinking that.
Like, I mean, I'm old enough where the map was a book, right? And it was antiquated because if roads changed, it was different, and there was plenty of challenges with it. I mean, how many times have you gone someplace, put it in GPS, never thought another thing about it unless the lady in the phone says turn left at your next stoplight.
We're so good. Yeah, what you're describing there is establishing a context for the answer, right? We have all these like out of context answers. It's out of ChatGPT. Tell me exactly about. Okay, here's an answer completely out of context. It's the meat of an answer, and it's not necessarily that's a bad answer. It is the answer, but it's so out of context. It's like, okay, tell me how to get to the Toyota dealership in Auburn, and it's like, well, you take a right at the Dunkin' Donuts. That's the answer.
Right, exactly.
But it tells you nothing. And you can run around and say, now you have the answer to that question. How do I get to the hey Ryan, how do I get to that Toyota dealership? Well, you take a right at Dunkin'. Everybody knows that. Look it up on ChatGPT. And we do that now for everything. It's kind of interesting is that we've pre-writing, people kind of had some disdain for the idea of writing. When writing was like being proposed, it's like, well, we could create this language. Apparently, I mean, who knows if this is accurate, right? But apparently, it's okay. Well, let's create this system so that we can we can lock in knowledge. And then I think it was like an Egyptian king. I forget his name at the time. It was kind of like, well, if we do that, then we're not going to rely on our minds to now seek the answer within. So, then we're kind of against writing, which I think is interesting. And obviously writing was super helpful, but you could see the fear there, right? The inappropriate use of a tool, because now people didn't have to search from within. Now they could search from without all these answers, right?
It's still technology.
Yeah.
It's still just another step in the technology line. And
Right.
I mean, I imagine we probably went through this on every step. I mean, I remember going through with Google. Like now, okay, Google, perfect. You still had to put the right information in and then click on the website and then maybe the next one or maybe the third one and then find it on the site and then, hope that it was right or whatever. But it's never been where it's simply just ask the right question and get the answer.
Right.
And I'm just this completely off, but I can't help. Have you seen The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, it's based on a bunch of books or whatever. But for those of you that haven't seen it, and I think I hear God laughing in the background. This civilization decides they want to know the meaning of life, so they build this massive computer, right? And it picture like the Stone Age people with this like massive computer, like it's like 10 stories high, and they like turn it on and it wakes up and it's like alive, and it instantly knows that as soon as he gives them the answer, they're going to shut it down. And he's like, well, I don't want to. So he's like, come back in like 200,000 years or whatever. And I'll calculate it and I'll figure it out or whatever. So and then like it fast forward and now it's like these like more advanced people and they're there. They're like, it's the day. And he wakes up and he's like, oh shit. And he's like, the answer is 42. Right? And they're like, what? And like, that's kind of the same thing we're talking about, right? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and so then it did that because it doesn't want to get shut down again. So it's like, come back and I'll tell you why in another 2,000 years or whatever. Yeah. But ultimately, like, that's kind of the joke, like, that we're talking about. Turn left at the Starbucks. Like, right. No, like, or just like any other topic, like eat 100 grams, 100 grams of protein is the answer. Oh, well, clearly the answer to the peptide that you need is semarelin, right? Like, like, it's like no actual depth, right. No understanding of why. Right. And we're using it to run and live full lives with. Like, I mean, I'm not going to do that, but lots of people would be like, okay, next step, go on and buy semarelin, right? Because ChatGPT said this is the one. And it also told me I need to take it every other day for 6 weeks or whatever, right? Like, no depth.
Yeah. And, I think there's a real danger there with those kinds of tools. And, I don't necessarily think the like chatbots and all that kind of stuff is necessarily like harmful as much as it's like as anything powerful is. It could be if you use it wrong, right?
Okay, I got a question for you then.
Yeah.
So I just read this, and it's a headline, and I hate that I'm bringing it up, but it triggered me, so I'm going to ask the question. On the ballot in New York is a headline, or at least I hope this is the right headline. Let's pretend it's a hypothetical question.
Sure.
Okay, but it's where it came from. They said that the medical and law industries have asked that these chatbots not be allowed to answer medical and law questions.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I think it highlights exactly what we're talking about, right? I mean, how many people do I hear tell me that their doctors are stupid because they ask ChatGPT about X, Y, and Z? And I'm not here to defend anyone. I mean, all people are subject to stupidity, right?
Well said, including myself.
Yeah, exactly, including myself for sure. And one of the things is that we can't discredit the fact that when someone is seeing so many people and experiencing so many, all the symptomology and all the background that they have, there is so much deep context for any single answer that there is no way your single question into Google or ChatGPT could encompass that kind of depth. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, I experienced that on the nutrition front. People tell me all the time, well, here's what I do. And I say, well, I mean, yes and no. The answers aren't that simple. Like real helpful answers aren't that simple. Actually, what we're talking about is answers are simple, but to place the answer in a context is very, very challenging. And so a doctor or a therapist or whoever you're working with or whoever you're asking questions to, or a lawyer, they might be able to actually place that context for you and say, well, your question doesn't even make sense because here's what you didn't question,
Right.
And so I think it makes perfect sense for them to be, I don't know, to say, well, maybe we put some guidelines in. I'm just not a big fan of like people controlling really anything. I don't know if that necessarily helps people.
I hate it. I agree.
Yeah.
I understand both sides of the argument, and I don't think that there's. I mean, it would be. As I'm even talking this through with you, which is kind of funny, I'm thinking to myself, like, there's no way you could do that because if you were not in New York, you would just answer, like, there's not like a New York specific AI model, right? Like, but ultimately, I think what we need to start to think about, especially when we go and talk to experts, right? When we go and talk to dietitians, whatever topic, we're not looking for answers anymore. We should be looking for knowledge. Like, Ryan, this is how I'm feeling. This is how I feel. I have a midday crash, or I'm concerned that I'm losing muscle, or whatever the challenge is. I don't want the answer. I want the knowledge on the topic so that I can, and then give me the answer you think is best. But if you give me the context and the knowledge, then I can go and make my educated decision.
Yeah.
And that's what people should be after.
Yeah, I got the best compliment the other day because it was someone like super aligned with, the work, right? And they show up every week and they do the work and they're making awesome progress, right? And they said, they asked me a couple like random questions that just required an answer, and they're like, I don't even want to. I'm actually just going to chat GPT the rest. I'm wasting your time with chat GPT questions. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because it was simple things. It was like, give me a recipe for this, give me a food idea on this. These like basic things that like that's an easy answer. But they recognize that the more important, how do I go about X, Y, and Z? What is the important thing to focus on right now for me? These kinds of deeper questions, that require a lot of context. They were saying, I don't want to waste your time with these easy ones. I want to use the time here appropriately. And in what any good therapist or dietitian or doctor, what they really should be doing is having you sort that out, sort out your own context. I don't give them the answers. We create the answers in that space, right? It's like you and I are talking, and we're creating the answers to the question overall. It's like how do we navigate the life in which the answers are free, but no one wants to do the journey, right? And so now we're creating the answer here, and the listeners are like, we're together with the audience, kind of like establishing the context and why it might be important to take the journey instead.
Interestingly enough, and we talked about this when we did the myth of Sisyphus. In modern neuroscience, like as we stand right now, it's understood that the journey, the act of learning, the act of doing something is when the majority of our good feeling comes up, right? So like what I'm saying is we actually feel better when we're searching. We feel better when we're learning. We feel better when we're actively engaged in trying to gain knowledge. Simply reading, and let's face it, simply reading the answer is not any of those things.
No.
It doesn't even stick. It's almost like, for me, I'm using Claude and ChatGPT just like everybody else. And so many times when I'm in that mode, I don't even want to read the whole answer.
Isn't that terrible?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, something that I know, like, okay, so I'm like, I want to revamp my website. I'm like, hey, Claude, take a look at my website. Give me the answer as to what I should do to change it. And it's like, it spits off like, I don't know, 10 paragraphs. I'm like, crap, I don't even want to read that. Like, summarize that for me. Yeah. And then it comes down to like 4 paragraphs. Then finally it's like, you should hire somebody is what it says. I'm like, okay, all right, good. But I don't have no idea what's wrong still. I don't really understand why I should change my homepage. I have no idea why I'm not attracting the customer base that I'm looking for, why it doesn't align with the Google SEO. Like these are all words that I now have read, but I don't know about it. Whereas if I was like, all right, I'm going to go pick up, programming for dummies or, making a website for dummies, which is out there. It's a book. I can read about it start to finish in a book. Take me probably 4 more hours, but at least now I have some context.
Right.
So then when I eventually go back, because I'm going to, I can be like, oh, okay, I understand why that said that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually it's not a field well studied actually, because I looked it up and I actually can't think of the name for the type of knowledge or the learning that requires effort, right? There's a term for it, but there's a little bit of research that suggests that the more effort it takes, the better the answer, and the more we remember it and integrate it into our lives. And so, yeah, a short form video is basically worthless answers. I mean, and it's insidious because they're entertaining answers and they might be the right answers. And for that person, 40 years of therapy in three tips, those answers have so much, meaning, if they're true, right? Like have so much meaning to them, and they can feel very compelling. It can feel very real, but there was no place for it to sit in your life and your mind. And so the shorts are the worst. Maybe the longer videos are a little bit better. Maybe the articles are better than that, and then maybe the books are better than that, and then maybe the multiple books are better than that, and then maybe the courses are better than that, and then maybe the lifetimes are better than
Living
that.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about art for a second, right? I think there's this big push now because it's basically if it's not already here, it's on the precipice or the doorstep, right, of art that is generated in seconds. Like, some of it's good, some of it's bad, but eventually it's going to be just as good, quote unquote. But what does it do? Like, would you say that if you were like to put into your ChatGPT or put into your thing and be like, make me the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen. And then you make it and like you print it out and you're like, Mike, this is a picture that I made for you. Versus I painted this picture for you, or I was at the beach and I took this photograph of this thing and I thought of you, so I brought it for you. Like, do you think there's a major difference there or no?
Yeah, I think the important point here is that we now have a choice, right? We have kind of like two paths. I mean, there's multiple paths, but we have really 2 paths. And the short answer to that is, well, yeah, there's going to be beautiful art. There's going to be beautiful, entertaining videos. There's going to be amazing music. It is already here. AI music is technically so cool, right? And it does all the right things. The bass lines are the right notes, and the drum patterns are the right, rhythms and everything. And then there's the other path where things are imperfect, but it has a soul, right? And I think, to me, and it may not be obvious to everyone, but to me, it's very obvious that I want to take the soul path, right? And I want the art that has some human element behind it, because something with some emotion was there to kind of like create that. And I think it's kind of obvious too. I mean, you could tell what the slop is, right? The like low effort kind of stuff, and that's 2025's Merriam Dictionary's word of the year is slop, because I think a lot of people do recognize that all this AI stuff, albeit very entertaining, is very good at it. Like the art is very good, the music's very good, the videos are very good. They're too good. But there is something missing, and there will be people who go completely to the route of temptation, the easy route, where it's like there's no effort and it leads to all this entertainment, and really there's an essence of beauty there. Or do we go the harder route? We still stick to books. We read the long books, and we cherish human creations over the robotic ones, right? And we have to choose that now, and it's hard. It's going to be hard. It's already hard to make those choices, but we have to continue to do that.
It's definitely hard, and it almost is like you have to figure out when you want to fit it in to your life, because we live in this world that is so fast right now. I mean, the news cycle is 3 days. You're expected to be multitasking at 90% of the jobs. And then when you get home, you have all of this information. I was thinking about this, and it may be a little bit off topic, but like the 1990s, right? That's when I was middle school, high school. No email. Let's just go with no email, okay? So there's no phone, but there was also no email. There was, you know how many notifications you got in the 1990s? It was someone standing in front of you being like, hey, look at me, right? Essentially, it was you like trying to figure out how to get your parents on the phone so they could pick you up. And that was only if they were home and you were at school, because you had an opportunity to have a phone, which was a landline, right? So like if you left either your home or your school, you had the word notification is the word. You had none. You couldn't notify anybody where you were, what you were doing. No one could reach out to you and tell you, hey, you should do this. I mean, how many notifications do you get a day?
It's endless.
It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
It's even in the course of this podcast, we'll have, X number.
Yeah.
And we live in this world now where we are expected to respond to them. And we put it on ourselves mostly, right? Like, especially like the ones that we know don't matter, but we're like, well, we better respond to that one, or better respond to this one, a Facebook notification or a Instagram notification or whatever the case may be. And it's like, we want these quick answers because we feel as though we're busy. Like I got to get the answer to this because I need to move on to the next problem, topic, thing. More time scrolling, more time for myself. Oh, I just want the answer quickly so I can spend more time by myself. I can spend more time working on something I want to work on. Right? Like, what is that really? That's not what's happening. That's, that's what we're telling other lies we tell ourselves. Mm-hmm. I just need the answer quickly so I can move on. Like, cool, but you got to come back in 2 weeks and find the answer again because you didn't learn it.
Yeah. I've been getting stressed lately because I have all these like people that I want to like be in touch with, right? And it's hard. It's hard. It's like, I didn't know that person was doing that, or I didn't check in on that person for their even like I was thinking about you and I hadn't touched base with you in a little while, and I'm like, I feel bad. One of the reasons that it has been that way is because I've been, stepping away from a lot of the worldly matters, the busyness and the constant kind of whatever. And I'm still super busy with like work and everything. But outside of that, I want to have some breaks here and there. I'm really trying to, seeking depth. And that means that I have to, unfortunately, sacrifice those other little things. And I just hope that, through taking the soul path, say that when the connections are made, they're worthwhile, right? And what good is 100 texts, over 1 hour insightful, real conversation that we find interesting.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm trusting in that. I'm having faith in that, and I think that's really important. And yeah, to step away from a lot of the worldly concerns and into things that have some true meaning. I've been meaning to read it for a couple of years now, but I finally read it, and it was a monster of a book. The Brothers Karamazov. You've heard of this? No. It's by the Russian. It's like an old Russian novel by Dostoevsky, and yeah, it's like, you know, one of those books that people kind of hail as like, wow, this is, you know, one of the greatest writings of all time, some of the greatest literature of all time, and I tell you, it's a lot different than what we have now, and it's a monster of a book. It's huge, and it's you know, it's not only thick, it's a big book, but the you could look at a page and it's like the smallest font you could fit on like a normal size book page, and there are no breaks. It's straight up just words, and it's, you know, it's a murder mystery essentially. But I'll tell you that there are like 3 events in this book. It's an 800-something page book, and there's like 3 events. There's like 3 things that happen out of the whole book, right? Wow. And it's not entertaining. There really isn't anything remarkable about the events that happen. There isn't anything super remarkable about any of the actions from, you know, it's just kind of like, if I were to summarize it, right? 3 brothers, vastly different. They, you know, and this is not really spoiler, but their father gets murdered, murder mystery deal. We kind of find out that it was more complicated than what seemed on the surface. That's it, right? And I will say though, the amount of depth there, right, even throughout the end of to the last page, I'm like, I don't know if I'm really getting anything. But what I've really gotten is like, as it assimilates over time, and like seeing the true like philosophical depth that like kind of unfolds, and I can start like, you know, making, I can start seeing things a little differently. And it's like, it is like a life-changing book in some ways, because you need that depth. You need that kind of like philosophical depth. Or at least, like, I guess what I'm saying about this book is because it had such deep character development, and you could really truly see the characters. You could see their motives. You could see kind of like everything that played out, and you can kind of see yourself in some of the characters and see other people in them. You know, there's just so much utility in that. And again, there is no way that you can go on ChatGPT and like, tell me the lessons learned. You can't. And you can't watch a video. You have to do it. Right. And so it's taught me a lot about like, it's a slog to get through. And it's like interesting, but it's not. And it's this weird kind of paradox where it's changing, but throughout the whole process, it's a little bit of a slog. And I think that's, you know, a lot of life is, you know, read a really deep book and put in the effort, you know, push through the novelty of everything, and just kind of stick with something. Or like even in the art, you know, like, okay, if you're going to do a drawing or painting or writing, do it for a while, you know, stick through the whole, you're going to have a lot of resistance there. And so if you stick through it, then you might find that to be changing. Sports too. Most everything that we find value in, it's because we have context, we have deep knowledge around, and we find value in learning more about it. I mean, there's lots of topics that I'm just not interested in that I need to have the answer, and I get it. But the topics that I find interesting, I need to make sure I'm using my time to find the answers effectively and to gain wisdom on. It's like, I think it's just valuable for people to listen to this and just maybe just think about it. Just spend a few minutes just thinking about what we're talking about. And, you know, for each one of us, the answer will be different. It's so ironic that we're talking about the answer, right? But internalize it and say, you know, where are some areas in my life that maybe I dig a little deeper,
right? And where are some times where maybe I really shouldn't use this tool because it's not the most effective tool for what I'm trying to accomplish. I think especially younger people, I know I'm sounding like an old man, but especially younger people, like it was always kind of a slippery slope, to your point, like reading the Cliff Notes, right? And
Sure.
there was a reason why those weren't the best option for people, right? And now, like we said, you can ask for the Cliff Notes and then ask them to summarize the Cliff Notes, and I could tell you, your book, and I could find out about your book. How long did it take you to read?
2.5 months.
2.5 months, right? I could summarize this for the audience in less than a minute.
Oh yeah,
with no pauses,
yeah.
right? And well, maybe 2 minutes because I'd have to read it out loud.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. But to your point, like you've already made your point so well, but where are areas in our lives where we can choose to get context and knowledge versus just the answer?
It's, what I'm finding for myself, because I've been really fixated on this kind of the entirety of this topic for a little while now, is that it's everywhere. It's in conversations. It's in pursuits of any kind of answers. It's in your work. It's, we spend so much time. We have a real problem with just kind of, being so ungrounded and saying, well, I'm just going to move from one thing to the next, and I'm gonna order the DoorDash, and opposed to like cooking the meal, and I'm gonna watch some TikToks instead of like reading a book or taking on a project, or I'm gonna just text someone today instead of having like a real conversation or call or whatever it is, or going to visit them, God forbid. I think it presents literally in every area, and a lot of it comes down to like true presence, right? If you can be truly present and not give in to like the temptations that we're experiencing on an everyday basis, and that's only growing. Again, with like the AI kind of stuff, it only grows, the temptation to just get the easy answer because it'll do. The Cliff Notes, they did back then, the Wikipedia, that'll do back then, like those, it's the same thing. It'll do. Well, yeah, but effort is truly what matters.
So I have a question then, and a question is more for the audience. And in fact, I hope we can make some notes here because I'd like to do a follow-up on this. The question is simply this. Can you actually set your timer, set your clock, set your intention, and tell yourself, I want to learn about this topic for 3 hours? Pick a topic and say, I want to learn about this topic for 3 hours. And the fact is, I don't even care if you use ChatGPT. I don't care how you get the answers. But I want you to learn about it for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. The fact, most people, when they hear me say that, are going to go, of course I can. I'm not going to. So it begs the question, can you? Mm-hmm. I'm not convinced most people can. I'm really not. I'm not convinced that most people right now in today's day and age can say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to learn about tennis for 3 hours. And tennis is a terrible example. I have no interest in it, but maybe they do, right? Right? Something that interests you for 3 hours. I'm going to learn as much as I can about it for 3 hours. I'm going to find context. I'm going to ancillary things. I'm going to literally try to find out as much about this topic as I can for 3 hours. I'd be willing to bet you that most people in today's day and age, and especially people younger than us, can't do it.
Well, they can't do it for a couple of reasons. They can't do it because our brain is just demolished from like truly changed in just a short period of time, and a lot of researchers are actually very worried about that. So not only is our choice to like put in more effort is good for our neurobiology. I mean, it's necessary for a healthy neurobiology, right? But also it's challenging to our ego, and that's what we struggle with. Ego truly is the enemy, right? Who you think you are, who you try to feign, right? The thing about these quick answers is it feeds the ego. And why actually be competent when you can feign competence?
Right.
That's what the ego is saying every single day, right? Every single moment. And so, I think you're kind of right. I think people definitely have a neurobiological deficit that you have to actively fight against, and that's really hard. And then you have the ego being fed like a glutton through all of the daily actions that we engage in, and it's just so fat now, and I mean, if you have to admit that, you have to admit that. And so, yeah, take up one thing. I like that idea, like chess. You know how many people will still think, right? I think it's pretty obvious to me, but a lot of people just think chess is like, oh, if you're smart, you're good at chess. It's like, no. You know how much depth chess has? It's incredible. It is like mind-boggling. And I don't even know a lot about it. But I have more than 3 hours of like research at the very least. Many hours probably.
Did you know that I'm on? And I just looked this up this morning. I played 965 days in a row.
Chess.com.
Yeah.
I love it. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm only scratching the surface on the philosophies behind chess.
It's so deep, but that's exactly what it is. ChatGPT, tell me the best chess move, and you can go on websites and get the quote unquote the best chess move. But you know what that does? Nothing. It only feeds your ego, and it doesn't teach you anything. And it's weird because you could be like, oh yeah, like if you play a bot game and you say, give me a hint, and it's like, oh duh, I could have found that move. The hint was just yeah, no, that was this is just confirming what I already know.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
Or the Instagram videos that showed like the great openings, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then I scroll off it, can't tell you, don't remember.
What a waste! What a waste,
right?
Yeah.
But I have my favorite openings because I've done them over and over and over again, and I've seen the reaction over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. But you can. If you ask someone to like watch that video and then play a game of chess against you, there's no shot.
Yeah. But that's exactly what it is. It's there's depth in all things, and if you don't make learning kind of an inexperience in and of itself, or a project in and of itself, or just living the question, kind of to the earlier points, then yeah, we're having a real hard time.
I really like this point about the ego, because I'm willing to bet you that when you sit down to do this, not you or me, but the audience, I know me, and I know what'll happen. I'll sit down and I'll try to learn this thing for 3 hours, and I'll have 100 times where my brain will tell me, we don't need to do this. I already know this. I don't need to do this. This is dumb. I have much better things I could be doing with my time. I could just go back and get the answer. I don't need to learn anything more. But like that will be the repetition in my brain because I'm feigning competency.
Or you'll do it and you'll be like, wow, I'm 3 hours into learning about this thing. I basically know it all. I know every single, the ego will be like, I'm an expert on that subject.
Right. Yeah. But I'd be willing to bet you that most people, it's like, okay, meditate for every day. Meditate one. I can meditate every day for this week. Okay, do it. Oh, well, I didn't. Oh, what happened? Well, something happened, right? So like tell yourself, I'm going to try this thing for 3 hours. I'm going to lock myself in my room for 3 hours. I'm going to read for 3 hours. I'm going to try to find something interesting for 3 hours, like something that makes sense. Try it for 3 hours. Yeah. Our attention spans are terrible. Yeah. So, you're going to have to overcome that to start. Everybody listening to this is going to have to overcome that to start. And then work through the process of overcoming that. And then work through the process of not relying on the least common denominator, right? You're going to have to work through these processes to get to the end of the 3 hours. And maybe, if nothing else, maybe you learn something about yourself.
Right. Or even just do a new skill. Do chess, do tennis, do pottery, learn guitar, learn how to draw. Do that, and you sit there and you're like, wow, I'm awful at this. And then you look up all the tips, 3 drawing tips
to become the best drawer ever.
Yeah, and you'll do that, and then you'll try it, and you're like, that stinks, and then you'll give up because you recognize, well, or you create some conclusion. I'm just not a drawer. I just can't do it. It's just not who I am. And again, ego, is the ego kind of controlling literally everything. But yeah, there's something about it. It's like, that's why jiu-jitsu has been so great, in my life, because it's the great equalizer. You can't feign competence, and you go into these places where you're not allowed to fake it. Right. And jiu-jitsu is one of those places. There's many other examples. You just can't fake it. And you have to show up every day knowing that you can't fake it. And you probably don't know as much as you think you do. And you get the blue belt and you're like, oh, I'm so good. And then another blue belt comes and just makes your day miserable. A white belt comes in, or just someone who's never done jiu-jitsu just ruins your day. Yeah, there's that. And then you get to like black belt and you're like, this is so cool. Like, I'm pretty good. And then like some other like blue belt phenom comes in and ruins your day. You just can't fake it. And if you try, that's not good either. You see the world crumble around you. The people in the jiu-jitsu world won't like that. I don't like rolling with people who have this ego that's in charge. It just doesn't. It's not good.
Yep. And it's so valuable because you can't just get the answer. To your point at the beginning of this podcast, you have to live the answer. You have to live the journey for the answer. Mm-hmm. With that, with poetry, with art, with music, with lifting weights, with making your body a certain way, with bodybuilding. I think I love this quote, and I'm going to butcher it. And in fact, I should just get the answer and look it up, but I'm not going to. But essentially, Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about it. He says, a fit body is a status symbol. You can't borrow it. You can't inherit it. You can't borrow it. You have to work for it. And if you stop working for it, it goes away. And you have to constantly be working at it. And it shows respect for yourself. It shows respect for others. It's like, and that's what it is. They're like, you can't chat GPT, how do I get a fit body? You can, but then you got to go do the work, right? And even that's not going to work for you. You're just going to say, oh, you should do X, Y, and Z, but that might not be what's best for you.
And I'd argue on that point that anyone who has done anything for a long period of time and done put effort into it is gonna use that to relate to all those other inner things or inner traits, inner qualities. Bodybuilders going to say like, oh, if you're the best bodybuilder in the world, then you have a lot of self-respect. And if you don't do that, then maybe you don't. But I can say that about jiu-jitsu and self-defense, right? Like, if you don't know how to defend yourself, you don't know how to do jiu-jitsu, then maybe you don't have self-respect. Although, what is really being said is that that's how I found self-respect. That's how Arnold found self-respect. Right. The most beautiful paintings done by the painter, right? Like, that's how they found self-respect. And the point being is like, he was in the journey, not in the
always in the journey.
There's this to wrap it up. There's this one story, Picasso. I think someone went up to him. I don't know how true this is because I don't know if he was even popular during it, but nonetheless, like, apparently someone went up to him later on in life. You know where I'm going with this, and they're like, "Hey, can you do a painting? I love your stuff. Or can you do a quick drawing?" And then he, does a quick drawing, and it's like, took him a minute, and he'll be like, he said something like, "Oh, that'll be like $3,000 or whatever, some ridiculous number." And they're like, $3,000? Like, you did that in 2 minutes? And he's like, "No, that took me 30 years."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's very.
I think it was a bull. I think he drew a bull.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason I kind of remember this story. But yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. No, what you saw was the outcome of 30 years of hundreds of hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Well, yeah. Any last things to wrap it up?
No, I hope that people will, we made a few points that I think people will take away from this podcast, but I hope that people will just spend a little extra time looking for some context with their answers, looking for some depth in today's day and age, recognizing that they'll feel better when they have some depth and some context. And there'll always be times where you just want the answer, but when it's not that time, when you can take the time to find some depth and find some context, I think you'll realize that you'll feel better, you'll feel smarter, you'll be smarter, you'll have more knowledge, and that's really what we're after.
Yeah. Yeah. Make the choice. Make the choice. So, all right. Well, yeah, give us a like or follow or whatever other interactions are there. It kind of helps us out a little bit. We're on Instagram, Simple Healthy Life. Give us a follow there as well, and we will catch you next time.